I've been building and painting models for about 30 years now, and this was without a doubt simultaneously the best model I've ever made and an absolute total nightmare project that I will never, ever repeat. My name's Guy, you're watching Midwinter Minis. This video has been kindly sponsored by Wayland Games, and when I saw that Cromlech were re-releasing the God Busta Mega Stompa, which is apparently the largest sci-fi orc production model ever made, I was 100% on board, because obviously I thought it would be a cool video to make on the channel, but also because I have a bit of a reputation for building and painting very large models, and why not add to the collection? So I bought it. They didn't send it to me for free. Cromlech have offered to send me stuff before, but I haven't taken them up on their offer because I just don't feel super comfortable doing that. I'd much rather buy it and then give you an honest impression. So I spent 279 euros on it. That's about 250 quid roughly, or $320, significantly more than the official Ork Stompa model that's now £91, but a little bit less than the gargantuan Squiggoth that I built and painted last year, even though it's massive. It's way bigger than those two models. In fact, it's supposed to stand about 45 centimeters tall, or 18 inches, which is almost head height for a Warlord Titan. So how have they made such a massive model relatively affordable? Well, it's because of the materials. It's not resin like most of Cromlech's other models. It's not plastic like most Warhammer stuff is now. It's not metal because it's not the 80s anymore. It's made of wood. Specifically HDF, which stands for high density fiberboard. So if you've made any of those like wooden wargaming kits, you'll be familiar with MDF, which is medium density fiberboard, which is cheaper, a little bit more flexible, a little bit more prone to warping though when it gets into contact with moisture. Generally, MDF is used for like non-load bearing structure for sort of cheaper furniture, where it obviously hopefully won't come into contact with any moisture, but it's often covered with a veneer to keep it safe. HDF is the stuff that they use in like higher end furniture cabinetry where lumber maybe just isn't really required. And it's also used for flooring and wall paneling because it's a little bit more hard wearing and stable. Can you tell I used to manage a furniture shop? So unpacking this absolute monster of a package, about 3 kilograms of wood in a hefty card box. First off, there's a little baggie of resin bits. I assume to add extra details that wouldn't be worth trying to recreate in wood, which is good because honestly, the quality of Cromlech's resin is just on another level. We've got some rods, dowels, I guess, different lengths and girths, life's rich tapestry, and then just tons and tons of sheets of wood. The different parts, like the body and each weapon, are separated out, kind of like the different baggies you get with Lego kits, which is, it's a nice organizational touch. There's also a really detailed instruction book, so let's just get cracking. The tools you need for building MDF or HDF kits are pretty simple, to be honest. Some water is always handy for brush cleaning, a little pot to put your PVA glue in. I'm using wood glue instead of regular PVA or school glue. I'm not really sure what the difference is though, I'm not a chemist.
Wood glue and school glue are both made from polyvinyl acetate, but wood glue is a little bit thicker.
I've also got a craft knife, some snips, some cocktail sticks. They might be useful for tiny poking, I don't know. A couple of metal craft files, and also a deburrer. But again, I'm not sure how useful that'll be, but we'll see. So the parts are connected to the frames by a much thinner point than in some of the other kits I've made, meaning they just snap out of the frames really easily, leaving behind just a tiny sliver of a little connection point, which you can obviously just file away, or, given its size, you could just probably leave it, to be honest, it's so tiny. Another nice touch, the part numbers in the instructions are sequential, and by and large refer to parts on the same sheet. And guess where you can find the sequentially numbered parts on the sheet? Yeah, that's right, they're right next to each other. Compared to the absolute jumbled nightmare of Warhammer sprues, this was pretty refreshing, to say the least. And everything just seems to, just go together. Most parts, especially early on, I did do a little bit of dry fitting and then apply PVA to the contact points, and it just stuck the parts together. The extra thick glue doesn't immediately set like super glue, but it starts getting firm enough to kind of let go and be a little bit structurally solid after a few seconds, and then fairly solid after a couple of minutes. So as long as I was careful, I could go around the same sections without, too many pieces falling off after I added more. The first section is the understructure of the body, including the support elements that will eventually hold the massive belly cannon. Honestly, I think the tool that's working hardest right now is this little file with a pointed tip. I'm using it for everything, to help pop out the parts from the frames, filing the little connection points, and popping out the blanks. It's a really handy little thing, actually. If you want to grab some for yourself, I've left a link to some similar ones in the video description. Now, there's two thicknesses of HDF frames in here, one regular and one double thick. The double thickness stuff seems to be generally used for the kind of structural elements, and the single thickness parts are armor panels and details. So after assembling the first slew of armor panels on the body, I realized that while I thought I'd been really diligently following the instructions, I must have made a mistake somewhere, because these little sticky out prongs are supposed to line up to attach the armor panels. So I had to partially dismantle the structure again and swap the parts around internally. I mean, good job PVA doesn't set too quickly. Well, good job you can still pry it apart even when it has set. Okay, well, that's how it should have been. Good to go. Oh, hang on. This part doesn't seem to want to fit. I don't really know why, but meh, I'll just cut down the bits that are rubbing. That was a bit frustrating, but this step, it's kind of brain tickly, you know, like popping bubble wrap. Christmas is 1 month away, by the way. If you're like me, you've probably got a few nerdy hobbyists that you might be looking to get gifts for, and this video's sponsor, Wayland Games, could help you with that. They are my go-to whenever I need, well, any hobby-related thing, really. And they've got everything from big wow presents to all the little stocking filler bits and bobs that we buy too many of and then forget who we got them for and end up just keeping them for yourself. Is that just me? Oh. Anyway, they've got miniatures, paints, board games, D&D books, brushes, tools, model kits. Basically, if it lives on a hobby desk or a gaming table, Wayland Games stock it. And usually at a ridiculous discount. 20% off Games Workshop, 10% off Lego, even 5% off Gundam kits. Literally something for everyone. They know what nerds want because they are nerds. Wayland is staffed by actual hobbyists, real painters, real gamers. So you know you're buying from people who genuinely get why we obsess over this stuff. The wishlist feature on their site is also so good. You can use it to give friends and family a not so subtle hint if they're a little bit useless at buying you stuff you actually want. Or you can just set one up for yourself, and that way you'll get notifications when things come back into stock or when prices drop. Saves you constantly refreshing product pages like some kind of obsessive nerd goblin. Use the link in the description or scan the QR code if you're watching on the TV and see how far your hobby budget can stretch at Wayland Games this Christmas. So just to be safe, I tended to add a little bit too much glue to some of the connection points and then wipe the excess away with the brush just to make sure that the parts were definitely going to hold. And that's the first layer done. The more I assemble this thing, the more it sort of feels like a giant jigsaw puzzle, albeit with like clearly labeled parts and detailed instructions. So not really like a puzzle at all, but it kind of has the same vibe. Do you know what I mean? The problem is that at this point, I've already been building this thing for at least a full workday. And I'm nowhere near finished. Like, I barely feel like I've started. So I think my aim of having this done and dusted for the end of October is it's looking less and less likely. Like even just fully assembling and attaching these toothy bits for the front of the body took about an hour. Admittedly, I'm filming the process, so it's slowing me down, but yeah, it's taken a while. Also, my friend Lee dropped by to see his girlfriend for a bit. Absolute tart, honestly, look at her. So I'm not complaining about the quality of the model at all. The more I work on it, the more I think whoever designed this is an actual genius, but it's just a lot, you know? It's quite a fun touch that because the body is hollow, the different armor sections often have bits that recess inwards, making it seem like more three-dimensional than just always having stuff sticking out of it would be. Honestly, this looks so cool. I wish my head was a bit smaller so I could wear it as a helmet. The model also has a nice little reference to the classic Gargant model that Steve and I painted in a video recently, the random little hut sticking out of the carapace. Cute. And again, I thought I'd done so well. After trying and failing to get these top armor panels to slot into the flak section on top, I realized that I'd put it on upside down. So off it came, flip, stick, and yeah, there we go. Again, another bit that you think, oh, that looks pretty simple, that couldn't have taken too long. No, this collar element on its own at the back of the neck, that took about 2 hours to prep and assemble. Anyway, with the rest of the armor panels on the neck, that's the shape of the body kind of done. Now for the arm supports. Keeping in mind, this is all connected to the internal structure. It's actually surprisingly robust because these pieces kind of lock in and then they don't have anywhere to go. But then weirdly, the actual socket joints just connected with a few pins. So I'm not sure how well that'll hold the hefty arms, but I suppose we'll see. Each arm is protected with a big chunky shoulder section with armor panels connected to some truss, and then one of them has this kind of curvy section which introduces a new type of material to the mix, and that's this kind of wood paper. It's not card, it feels like very thin laminate or veneer or something. It's kind of weird. So apparently you need to moisten the sheets, curve them on something like the dowels, and then stick them down. I mean, okay, that seems to work. These little bits, I feel like they're just gearing you up for the main event, because now it's time to build the tummy cannon. And yeah, you guessed it. After building the whole skeleton of the gun, you basically need to cover the whole thing in that wood paper stuff. It's moist, but still too dry. I need to add a little bit more. Just a wet finger along the shaft should do it. Come on now, no giggling at the back. Actually, I don't know if I need to worry so much about the edges peeling up, because this frame holds the edges down. Anyway, hang on, this isn't the cannon. What is this bit? Why does it have wheels? Why does it look like a train? Oh, it's because it is a train. It's like a cool imperial sci-fi looking engine. I guess that's used as the power plant of the model. That's so cool. That's a really nice touch. And now we have to use some of the resin bits too. Just these little tubes, nothing exciting. But these are used as kind of exhaust or fuel pipes or something running between the boxed parts that will make up the exhaust stacks, I guess. These wooden dowels make up the big stacks, I assume. More boxing in and cool little ramshackle platforms to hold it all in place. Okay, so I mean, well over halfway through, and I just broke my first part trying to get out of the sheet. No worries though, because it's just a cross brace to attach some random armor panels. So I just sliced up some of the cooler looking blank shapes and then just glued them on higgledy-piggledy. And I mean, that fits right in. Another bit of annoying wood paper curved at the bottom of the second exhaust assembly, and I mean, it's ready to get stuck on. Okay, now it's time to build the cannon. I ended up moistening these bits way more until they were pretty much completely saturated, and they kept their shape way better. Like, they took longer to dry, but I mean, it's staying together. Annoyingly, the time-lapse of me building the feet didn't record, but they are satisfyingly large, chunky, and spiky. Honestly, if you ignore the big talons, I reckon they're probably actually a human size 4 or 5, I guess. I'm a 13, that's a US 14 or a European 48. And, well, you know what they say about men with big feet. You can't buy shoes. You can't buy shoes anywhere, like literally anywhere. Very much enjoying the idiot-friendly this side up on the base plate the feet attached to. Could have done with that on a few other parts, to be honest, but never mind. Okay, well, that's one book officially done and dusted. Now on to the next book, which has the head and the weapon instructions. Honestly, this is all much of the same, so I don't want to bore you to death with a step-by-step. It's basically just creating the internal structure, adding the outer shell of armor panels, and then detailing with sticky out parts like eyes, teeth, and barricades on top. The only slightly tricky thing is I can't for the life of me get the head to connect to the slot on the neck. It feels like I can't push it back quite far enough. Like if I turn it one way to fit the groove, the armor on the side will grind against the neck, and if I turn it the other way, the little step ladder gets crushed. So maybe I'll just stick a big fat magnet on it after it's done and call it a day. I mean, it looks nice and goofy though, I love it. For the arms and weapons, again, a pretty similar affair in terms of building process. The only new things really are the fact that it actually has articulation points, which, I mean, again, just a cool design feature, honestly. So much thought has gone into this. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around the fact that this was literally just flat sheets of wood with a few dowels, and it's all kinds of weird and wonderful 3D shapes now. So I know I'm racing through these build clips like there's no tomorrow, but man, this is literally hours and hours, days, in fact, of work. And I totally underestimated how long this thing would take to build. If I'd known, I would have maybe done it in stages and made maybe like a video series like I did with the Titan building. But yeah, planning isn't my forte. I don't know if you've gathered that yet. But you know what? I think it's finished. I think it's actually done. It's actually done. Oh, hang on a second. No, not quite. There's a few resin bits to attach to add extra details, like the vents on the exhausts and some hatches and small weapons to stick where you like. And I stuck those on using super glue. And there's also a sheet of bonus armor panels to tart up some of the flatter sections too, so I mean, I might as well get them on. I was doing other bits and bobs over the course of that build. I put out 2 other videos, but that honestly took about 3 weeks of working at least a few hours every day on that build. Admittedly, I was documenting the process, so it slowed me down a little bit, but yeah, this kit is no joke. In about half that time, I built and painted this giant orc gargant from scraps, junk, and broken kids' toys. And speaking of which, I should probably paint this beast, right? HDF is a little bit less thirsty than MDF, but it still needs a good primer coat to stop all the paint I apply later from just absorbing straight into the material. And this is the perfect chance to empty some almost finished rattle cans. So after giving different sections a blast of black, grey, silver, bronze, brown, and a little dusting of red, this is what it looks like. It has a kind of a burnt metal vibe. So given I've spent so long on the build, I'm going to have to be pretty efficient with the actual paint job, and nothing gets base coats down better on big models than an airbrush. The only thing is I have, I'm going to say a bit of a problem with airbrushes. I tend to go through them like flushable wipes after a foul, but I just treated myself to a new one from Amazon. And to be honest, I end up trashing even expensive models, so I feel safer with £20 kits like this. And to speed things up, I'm actually going to use some pre-mixed airbrush paints from the Army Painter. Let's get some of this metallic royal purple. Ooh, fancy. My Orc's theme is purple and orange, so that's predominantly what I'm going to be using here. Literally all I'm doing with this is squirting a tiny bit of flow improver into the cup and adding paint straight from the dropper, mixing and spraying. And well, they just work, which is awesome. For the orange parts, they're base coated with molten orange, using some bits of torn black card to stop overspray from staining the purple. Fun fact, I actually think that this black card was left over from when I handmade my wedding invites about 20 years ago. That's kind of terrifying. So when you're like, oh, maybe I should throw that out, don't. Keep it for 2 decades because you might finally use it for something. For a brighter orange highlight, some of this incursion orange onto the top of the lower teeth and the bottom sections of the top teeth on the body to kind of draw attention to the big cannon in the middle. And then some of this moon dust to lighten up those tips a bit too. I know it looks a little bit desaturated, but I've got a plan. Hold on. Some Brood Mother Purple, which is very similar to that metallic one, just not metallic, and it'll do to tidy up some of that orange overspray. And then I used a big fat size 8 brush to paint some panels with some of the other transparent colours like reds and purples and pinks, just to add a bit of tonal variety. Next, some Raven Black, which is kind of like a rubbery tire black, not quite true black. Use that to add some shadows and panel lining effects to bump up the contrast. You can also intentionally spray way too much of paints like this into vents and areas where liquid might pool and drip anyway to create a pretty cool effect. Technically bad, technically, but creatively good, if you know what I mean. I think that looks pretty cool. And next I'm going to add some metallics using this Iron Hand steel, fixing up some parts that got sprayed, but also base coating stuff like gears and joints and other details to make them stick out from the painted armor panels. Now to match my giant gargant and my Stompa, I also base coated some of the panels with bronze, which tonally still fits with the overall aesthetic that I'm going for. Okay, let's give this Godbuster Mega Stompa a little bit more saturation. Contrast paints tend to work really well for this, like this Doomfire Magenta. This sort of acts like a filter to pump in more saturated hot red tones onto the orange bits. And it's also really useful for adding a bit of tonal variety and warmth to the purple armor too. Cassandora Yellow can also be used to add more saturation to the paler yellow I airbrushed on before, and because it's really transparent, it won't lighten up any areas that are intentionally dark. Next up, Leviathan Purple. I'm going to use that to add some deeper purple tones around some of the panel edges, but also this works really well to add some more interesting tones to those brassy parts too. I sponged on some Mithril Silver. This is just a makeup sponge, by the way. You can get them super cheap, and after you've used them, just stick them in the laundry and they'll be good to go again. some little paint chips along edges, exposing the metal underneath, usually on stuff that would, bonk and grind as this monster waddles past. And then some black wash from TT Combat, which also happens to be in my TT Combat signature paint set, just FYI. I really like this formulation because it behaves like a mix between an old Citadel style wash and the modern contrasty version of stuff like non-oil, staining a bit but also sneaking into those recesses for quick dirty shading. So for the roof and doors of that cute little hut, I'm going to base coat with some peasant drab brown. Very excellent name, well done Troll Trader. And then just smush some darker browns into the recesses while it's still wet. Nice. Okay, let's get some weathering on this monster to tie everything in. First, this old rust effect paint. I've played around with this for a little bit now, and I found that if you thin it down about 1-to-1 with water, you can get some really cool streaky effects by just placing it where like dirty water or oil would pool, streak it down with your brush, and then just wipe it down with a bit of paper or your finger or something like that. And then you can add more streaks if you want to, if you want a heavier effect, but I mean, it looks great every time. It's a pretty cool effect. Not too over the top, it actually looks pretty realistic. Also playing into the slightly water repellent properties that metallic sprays can often have, I thinned it down even more with water and basically just coated it all over the metallic silver and brass parts, and it kind of clumped together in really kind of awesome looking pools and sunk into the recesses too. Like in terms of happy accident territory, this has to be pretty up there, right? It looks awesome. They also make a verdigris paint too, and I did the same thing again, but just over the brass bits this time. I think we can add a little bit more fire to that yellow, so with some buttercup yellow sponged onto just the tips, yeah, that should do it. Alright, let's make this thing glow. Any parts that I want to make look like light is coming from, I gave a base coat of white with my brush, and then another little blast of white from my airbrush to kind of spill that light outwards. The Army Painter airbrush set actually comes with some neon and fluorescent paints too, which are notoriously fucking awful through the airbrush. Case in point, when I clogged my airbrush about 4 times just doing the neon stuff on my gunship diorama. So let's base coat with the brush. Whoa, that is vibrant. And then when that had dried, a little overspill with the airbrush. Man, this really does spray nicely. No messing around. No clogs yet, actually, using all of these airbrush paints, just FYI. I'm also going to use this Gauss green to hit the bits that light isn't coming from directly, so it kind of hopefully looks like the light has sort of a more green hue, but the brightest point is yellow. Oh my word, that is, that's nice. Some slightly more muted green lightning streaks onto the orb of the main energy weapon to make it look all, buzzy and sparky. And you know what? I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, I know I said at the start of this video that this was simultaneously the best and worst hobby experience I've ever had, but yeah, now it's done. Like, I absolutely love it. That I still find it ridiculous that this massive war machine is made of wood, essentially. Like, it was almost entirely flat, and now it's all bulgy and curvy and boxy and chunky and awesome. The person or people who designed this, like, give yourself a pat on the back, because honestly, you're an absolute legend. I cannot imagine how difficult it must have been to plan out and actually make this model. It took me a long time, yeah. But I think the reason that it made me stressed out was because I was trying to do it for a video, trying to get it out for the end of October, and I ended up cancelling loads of like personal and professional plans to put more hours into this. But if you were just approaching this like you would, I don't know, like a 2,000 piece jigsaw puzzle, taking your time, hobbying just for the sake of a pastime, I reckon you'd be super satisfied building it. There are some tricky bits, like I wasn't a massive fan of the paper wood curving parts, and that process was a bit annoying, but yeah, they look pretty good assembled. I suppose my real personal takeaway here is that I wasn't even really aware that Cromlech made wood wargaming kits, but now I'm looking at their website, I can actually see they make loads of HDF stuff, movement trays, bases, terrain kits, and even another model, this giant modular orc battle wagon. So another model to add to the "oh no, I've got too many big models" shelf in my edit room, and another orc war machine that will hopefully feature in a future battle report, maybe the second part of the Battle of Kilchester against Ant's synthwave Tyranids. Also, look at the size of this thing. Let's do a few comparisons, actually. A Gretchen and an Orc Boy. Gazgul Thracker. A Gorkanaut. A Stompa. An Imperial Knight. Why not? Steve's immaculately painted Warhound Titan. My Warlord Titan. And my junk-built Great Gargant. It's not quite as big as that. So hopefully that'll give you an idea of the size of this thing. Equally enormous thanks to all of the channel's newest supporters over on Patreon. It's been a little while since I did shout-out, so there's a few to get through, but that does mean that Nessa's basically getting her entire dinner as sausages. So here we go. This one's from Istvan Wolf. Tom with an H. Mr. Voltiel. CS. Nige. Ari. Skippy the Magnificent. Master Ranger. Close. Marzarale. Grand Upper 82. Benedict Schaefer. Bav. Jabba Taboli. Fred Novi. Matthew Allen. Eamon. Rasmus Meyer. Matthew Vigar. John Martin. Chell. Jericho. Liminal Journey. Chris Narborough. Sean Kiernan. David Verney. Wobbly Chocolate Roll. Catois. Davlin. Pope Printer. Oh, the first one! James Evans. William Kane. Midnight Grimoire. Philip Eagles. Christian Gardner. Pepper Davies. Richard A. Regner. Crazy Volucris. Lemieux. Krista Randolyov. Gazius. Carly D. Adrian Coles. Alex Hutch. Justin Smith. Reese. Jack Forte. Floriel. Adrian Watananeas. Ian Plant. Stephen Calvert. Art and Toy Theory at Rickstro. Walshy86. And Charlie Raffin. That was very good. How are you still waiting for more? There's no more, it's all gone. You had so many sausages. If you want to see your name in lights or sausage, hit the link in the description and sign up to support Midwinter Minis from just £2 a month. And while you're at it, check out Whaling Games for all your Christmas nerd shopping needs. Massive thanks to Brent from Goobertown Hobbies for that awesome glue cameo, total legend. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.